Earlier this year, Fujifilm has released a new macro lens. This is actually the second macro lens on the lineup, but this is the first true macro lens. It has 1:1 magnification. We've had the pleasure on reviewing it for the last few weeks. I want to give you some feedback on it. Let's cover the general specs. It's an 80mm lens with a 2.8 fast aperture. It's optically image stabilized and also it's weather resistant, so you can use it out in the rain, light rain, so be careful. As you can see here, I'm actually using it on Fuji X-T2, which is not a stabilized camera. And I've been shooting around this little garden for a little while now, and the pictures coming out are very, very sharp. It is an 80mm lens, so in full frame terms, it would be approximately 122 due to the crop factor. It also costs approximately £1,100 here in UK, so it's not a cheap lens at all. Up to this point, we've been using our 16mm 1.4 lens, like an amateur macro lens. And for what we do here on this channel and general photography we do, it is plenty. You get a close enough up to your subject, but because the zoom, well, actually with the 16mm, there is no zoom. Because of that, you don't get that close to your subject. This lens has the minimum focus distance on approximately 25 centimeters, so you get really up in the subject's face. Let's compare both these lenses. So here I've got the 80mm and here I've got the 16mm. As you can see, the 16mm is about half the size. Both these lenses obviously have completely different use case, but they could be used overlappingly for certain aspects. How about we go and test these out around macro, considering this is mostly designed for macro. Let's go and see. As I mentioned earlier, this lens is actually a really expensive lens. At £1,100, it's at the top end of all the Fuji lenses. So investing in something like this, especially if you're only going to do some macro photography as a little hobby, is actually very expensive. What we want to do is actually compare this lens for portraits. Because being macro lens doesn't exclusively mean you can only use it for macro. It just means it has macro functionality that you can apply. We decided to do the portraits using our favorite portrait lens, which is the 50-140. We're going to use it at 80mm compared to the macro 80mm lens. And let's see. We've quickly reviewed the pictures and I can tell that both produce an almost equally sharp image. The one big difference is on the macro lens, what you can see is a slightly different kind of bokeh. On the macro lens, the bokeh wide open looks a bit like little lemons because it's a bit squished rather than round. But at the same time, it does create that vintage swirly look. We are big fans of vintage lenses, so for us, it looks really, really good. Some other people who prefer round bokeh may not like it as much, because on the 50-140 lens, the bokeh is round and it's gorgeous. I actually like them both. If I had the chance to use macro lens for more than just a hobby, I would actually like this lens over my 56mm, because I can use it for two things at the same time. If I had the choice of taking the 50-140 lens or this one, which is the 80mm, I would actually take the 50-140 because for my style of photography, I spend more time taking pictures of portraits, and a lot of times I need the zooming functionality. But if I was a photographer who was shooting outside of the city, I'd probably prefer this 80mm because you can use your legs to zoom. Let's cover the last bit of this lens. It's video performance and optical image stabilization. To summarize, while it's a very expensive lens, it's not just a macro lens. You can actually use it for portraiture and videos to show the detail, and then you can use it just as a zoom lens at the same time. Would I recommend anybody to buy this? Yes. With the sharpness that this lens provides, you can't go wrong. Also, if it's just not enough zoom for you, add a 200-pound teleconverter. You get right in there without losing too much of a sharpness. If you're in the market for a Fuji macro lens, well, you only have one to choose from. Alternatively, you're gonna have to go down the vintage lane and adapt it. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you next time.